Buffet hilarity. Some years back, my cousins came to visit from out in the country, and we treated them to a buffet restaurant. They're not used to being in town around a bunch of people, to say the least. Lol. After getting our food, one of my cousins went to look for some eating utensils. Yes, we were at a Chinese buffet, and he walked up to the first Asian person he saw at the buffet and asked for some chopsticks. She was like, "I don't work here." I didn't see it happen. He came back to the table and told us about it, but oh my god. I couldn't stop laughing for quite some time. It still makes me smile, and this was like 20 years ago. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Storytime with Uncle Jon. Today we're looking at the subreddit r/I don't work here lady. I remember when I was a kid. You know, it's a little less common. It's a little more common actually for other Asian people to eat in Asian, Chinese, whatever style buffets these days. Back 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was actually less common. I'm not sure why. I don't know if it was just something that, wasn't, a lot of Chinese food that we think of as Chinese food really isn't traditional Chinese food. Some of it's variations on that, maybe, but a lot of it's been Americanized to fit our taste. So a lot of Chinese or Asian people did not eat in those places. So at least not on a regular basis. It was pretty safe to say if you asked somebody who looked like they might have been from Asia somewhere, about utensils, chopsticks, whatever, that there was a good chance back then that those people did work there. It's stereotypical, but it was the truth. These days, I would never try that because you just never know who's eating where. All right, next story. You look like you work here. So I was minding my business in TJ Maxx looking at phone cases. I hear the voice of what was a psychopath. Excuse me, do you work here? Being a New Yorker, we ignore everyone. But in New Jersey, I've become soft. I turn, I don't work here. I don't look like I work here either. Crazy person continues. You look like you do with that thing around your neck. Me. You mean my fan for my hot flashes? It looks like a black fan blowing on my face, not a TJ Maxx employee lanyard. It's black, not red, and it doesn't say TJ Maxx. I said again, I don't work here, and she again continued to tell me I do. At that point I said some words and she ran off. She said, "Are you insulted? Why is it bothering you?" I'm like, "You can't insult me, but you must be trying to, and because I don't work here, said I don't work here, and yet you're insisting I do, which is very weird, and why am I even entertaining the foolery?" She was confrontational, was nowhere near anything to even needing help, was literally at the entry bothering me while I was a step away from the line. My daughter was in the line. Security was at the door with the badges, and you walk over near the line to F with me, a random? I just needed to vent. Being from Jersey makes you soft? Listen, I'm from South Jersey, and even we used to ignore people because we had crazies from everywhere. Jersey, PA, New York. It didn't matter. There's just crazy people all around us. And I'm sure there's times when people can be mistaken at a quick glance for maybe being an employee of a certain place. But, if somebody stops and really looks at you and thinks, I don't think they work here. They don't have any lanyard, no ID. They don't have the same color shirt as the rest of the employees. So I'll go ask somebody else. But then again, you got crazies out there who have zero common sense and just like to bother people. Entitled Karen. I was at my friend's birthday party at a trampoline park on Saturday. We were chilling all together with the boys until me and two other friends broke off to go play VR. This park had a VR for the platinum ticket, and so I wanted to try it. Midway through the VR game, the other three friends show up, including the birthday friend, and we talk about playing hide and seek. So we finish the game and chill next to the VR stand talking about it. There's a kid there talking about how he wants to go first, I think referring to the VR. So I say, "We're not playing, you can go," which is when he walks away. We keep chilling until the mom comes over with the kid and says he would like to do this because we paid for it, referring to the VR. And it wasn't an outside voice. It was just a rude and fast tone. My friend, that's his birthday, pointed to a sign that said, "Please wait for staff for VR." He repeated what the sign said, and then she asked him, "Do you work here?" Now let's do a quick cutoff. All staff at this place has the following: a lime green Urban Air shirt with a walkie-talkie in their pocket. He was wearing all black. He proceeded to say no, and she said with a whopping Karen-ass tone, "You should have said that from the start," and walks away, speed walking, carrying her son by his forearm with a stupid mom grip. Is it wrong for us to flip her off while she was walking away? Lol. Well, I think flipping her off would have been just as childish as her actions, quite honestly, but yeah, I mean, I personally would have started with, "Sorry, I don't work here, but the sign says you got to wait for the employee to show up to get into the VR," but I don't know, whatever. She also sounds like one of those parents who really doesn't pay that much attention to her kid until he becomes a bother to her in some way, like, he had too many questions for her or something like that. Don't you know your own managers, dude? This is a while back. I used to work for a company that would send me to local Walmart stores to fix up their vendor displays. Mind you, I was wearing a simple white polo shirt and khaki pants. As I was walking out of the store, since I was done with that visit, right before you get to the metal detectors, this Walmart employee in a yellow vest calls out to me and asks me if I had the keys to the office he was trying to get into. Of course, me all confused, looks around to see if he was talking to someone else. He gets irritated and says, "Yes, do you have the keys?" I tell him, "Sir, I don't work here." He gives me the most irritated look he can muster and walks off grumbling like it was my fault that he now has to look for someone to unlock the door for him. You would think you would at least know who works with you, me wonder. I continued on my merry way, but sometimes I do ponder about that moment. I'm not sure how this guy figured. I mean, if he was that new, he shouldn't be looking for keys to any room. And usually you go to one of your other fellow employees who either has a vest, a name badge, a lanyard, some kind of signifier that you work for Walmart. I think the vests are back in these days, but who knows? I never wore one when I was there, but I was a little different. Special, if you will. Walmart. This was a little bit ago, but I worked at Pizza Inn. We had the bright red shirts with Mr. Pizza Inn on them and Pizza Inn in giant yellow letters on the back. I went to Walmart after work to buy myself a new game. This lady comes up to me and starts complaining about a purchase and demanding my manager. I told her that I didn't work there and tried to move on. "But you're wearing a work shirt." "For Pizza Inn." "It's still a work shirt. You're an employee. You're supposed to help me." "I can't help you with this. I don't work here." She then demanded my manager again, so I just started to walk away. She grabbed my arm and yelled at me that she was going to call my manager. I just laughed and walked away. Was jokingly asked the next day why I didn't help the lady at Walmart by my manager. So she actually called the pizza place to scream at your manager about you not helping her? Oh my God, I'm glad your manager laughed it off and was like, realized what kind of craziness was going on. Some people are just absolutely nuts. Like, how do they let you out by yourself? Seriously, if you can't tell the difference between a guy with a Pizza Inn, Pizza City, Pizza whatever shirt on, bright red, that's not anywhere near Walmart colors. I still don't work here. I went to REI just shopping around, waiting for my friend to meet up with me so we could go rock climbing a block away. This guy comes up to me and asks if we have some pants in his size, and I'm like, "Oh, sorry bro, I don't work here." I thought it was weird because I was carrying around a gym bag, because again, I was going to go rock climbing. I also was wearing sunglasses and holding a coffee, so I swear I definitely don't look like I was working. Even weirder, like 10 minutes goes by and this guy comes up to me again with a new question. I legitimately said, "I still don't work here, man." He was like, "Oh," in a way like he was annoyed, and then he just stood there for like 5 seconds. I turned away and looked at whatever I was looking at, hoping it would just go away. He didn't. I decided that I wasn't going to deal with it, so I left. Like, WTF. Okay, maybe once, maybe making a mistake that you might be an employee. Fine. You told him you didn't work there. The interaction should have been done at that point. Nope, he comes back a couple minutes later thinking you still work there. Like, he doesn't even recognize, I don't know if he's got short-term memory loss or what. I mean, I've dealt with some people with some bad memory issues and they weren't quite that bad. Still don't work here. Am I wearing a bright orange apron I didn't notice? This was quite a few years ago when I was just out of college. One evening I was heading home from my crappy office job and needed to stop at Home Depot to pick up some screws or something. I was wearing typical office worker attire, polo shirt, khakis, brown shoes, certainly nothing fancy. As I'm standing in the hardware aisle looking over the products for what I needed, some lady walks up to me and says, "Excuse me, where can I find some super glue?" I try to be helpful and say, I don't know, I think maybe the paint department? She says something to the effect of, "What do you mean you don't know? Don't you work here?" Now, I did happen to work at a different Home Depot as a cashier a few years earlier, but even then I had trouble remembering what department had exactly what products in them. That said, being a former employee, I was familiar with Home Depot's employee guidelines, specifically the fact that every employee is required to be wearing an apron when in the stores. This was true all the way up to the CEO. I replied back, no, all Home Depot employees wear bright orange aprons. It's kind of their whole brand identity. She just kind of stared back at me and said something like, "Oh, I thought you were a manager." I just said, "Nope," and walked away. It's funny because even managers in most retail establishments and restaurants have some kind of name badge, ID badge, lanyard, some kind of signifier that, again, they are an employee of the store. I've seen employees, even managers, hide their IDs so that people won't molest them on their way through the store, but if that's the case, then you can't assume that they're an employee. Just nuts. And oh, by the way, super glue does tend to be around where the tapes and adhesives are, which is around paint, so you were right. No, I've never worked for Home Depot, but I shop there way too often. I should own stock, quite honestly. The subreddit has ruined me. I am ill. Had COVID last week and feeling weak and tired. Fully masked, although I was told I'm not contagious, I went looking for something. After trying 2 stores, I bit the bullet and walked into a dollar store. This store is big. I'm tired. I didn't want to search aimlessly, so I paused to ask cashier if he knew if they stocked the item. He didn't know, but there was someone in aisle 8 that I could ask. I wandered down aisle 8. There was a woman at a shelf, so of course back to me. I started to approach her to ask and had a flashback of this Reddit. I didn't want to become the subject of a post. I walked slowly and silently, trying to see if she had a name tag or some kind of identifying feature. No purse, that's a good sign, but many women don't use purses nowadays. Finally, I see her take something out of a box and put it on the shelf, another good sign. I slowly approach. She sees me, smiles, and asks, "Can I help you?" She looks like a customer to me. They need uniforms. Turns out they do not stock the item I needed. Oh well, at least I'm not the subject of a Karen post. Now see, you had some common sense. Even though you weren't feeling well and you were tired out, you at least thought ahead enough to kind of look for clues and cues. Is this person an employee? Possibly. Do they work here? Maybe. Although you looked a little strange, I'm sure. So you caught her eye and she turned around to see what you needed. So I don't know. Whatever. At least it ended well. Got your question answered. Ruth's Chris. I was going to Book of Mormon with my ex and my now husband. What? Then BFF, and I was wearing a cute skirt and top for the show because it's freaking Broadway, even if it's silly Broadway. Seattle, not New York City, so mainly just a play, but still Broadway, so looking decent in public. Edited for clarification. I ordered myself a baked potato to go pick up from Ruth's Chris next to the theater to munch on before the show started, since we got there early to find good parking. While I was standing in the lobby of the restaurant waiting for them to bring me out my potato, this older lady with a group of her friends comes in behind me. She looks around for a hostess, zeroes in on me, and marches up to me. "Excuse me, why aren't we seated yet? I have a reservation." I was like, what? "I have a reservation." "Lady, I don't work here. I'm going to the show next door." The hostess then appeared with my baked potato. Mind you, she had been gone for about 4 minutes at this point to see this lady in my space yelling about her reservation. It finally registered with the lady that just because I was in a black shirt and white blouse, it doesn't automatically make me waitstaff, and she gets super embarrassed and scuttles back to her friends. I got my potato and left and told my people what happened, and we all had a good laugh at her, and I hope she's still embarrassed. I'm trying to figure out the whole beginning sentence to this story. I was going to Book of Mormon, I guess that's the play, with my ex and my now husband. So I'm assuming that your now husband was a good friend of yours and used to hang out with you and your then husband? I'm pretty sure the whole Mormon thing that was thrown into that sentence was what threw me off, because I was thinking of multiple spouses at once. Yeah, see what happens when you make assumptions? Although the way the sentence was structured, you can't really blame me too much. Wow. Older lady thinks I work at a drugstore. Went to Green of Wall today to pick up a prescription. Normally that's the only thing I do at this store, and I'm always distracted by mode of transport, on foot, for almost 2.5 mile round trip. During warmer months when I get to the store, I'm hot as hell and very thirsty. I had already had time to get my script and slightly cool down, and was in the nail care section, which is pretty close to the pharmacy. I was looking for something, in hopes I wouldn't have to order from Amazon. At one point I was practically on the floor because I was looking at the most bottom area of the section, which was very near the floor. A lady, even older than me, came along with a cart on my right side. I'm also an old lady, but trying to get back in shape, hence the walking. At first I thought she wanted to get by me. The rows are rather narrow at this location. I was wearing street clothes and had a huge tote-type purse on my right arm. She asked me a question, where something was, but I couldn't understand the what. I stood up to hear her better and let her by, and she said in a rather garbled way, "Oh, you don't work here, sorry." She said some other things which I totally didn't get. She was wicked hard to understand. Told her she should ask the pharmacy for assistance, though I wished them luck understanding her. She headed that direction, and I pointed the pharmacy counter out to her. Very low-key, I don't work here lady, and thankfully she got help from a pharmacy tech pretty quickly. She did apologize though. It's crazy she thought I worked there just because I was messing around with reading products 3 inches off the floor. I mean, maybe it looked like you were stocking something on the shelf or doing a return item from up front, who knows. But she noticed pretty quickly that you didn't work there. By the way, I mean, I speak kind of garbled sometimes, even doing these recordings, but I've found that a lot of times when somebody's speaking garbled, it's not just the way they're speaking. Sometimes it's your hearing. So I got to get mine checked. You might want to get yours checked too. Not just once, but 3 times. When I worked both security and my last job in a warehouse, I would stop by Aldi on the way home. First time, a lady approached me and asked where something was, and I told her, over there, but I don't work here. I had on a hoodie because it was cold. Second time, a guy literally followed me around Aldi just to ask where something was. When he got close, he realized I didn't work there, apologized, and left. I was in regular street clothes. Third time, some guy kept saying, Miss, hello? And I noticed the lady looked towards me, so I turned around. Guy came running up to ask me about a product he was holding. I told him I didn't work there, so I don't know. He tried to convince me I did work there because of my shirt. It was just a dark blue, very close to a black blue. It was a uniform shirt. And I pointed out the color difference. He still didn't believe me. One of the really nice workers had noticed and came up to figure out what was going on. It took her a few minutes to convince him I didn't work here. He even pointed out the logo on my shirt was for the job I used to work at, not Aldi. I finally just left the worker with the guy and went to stand in line. That's just somebody trying to be right. I'm not sure what their deal is. It's, that's just another type of crazy person that you're going to see out in public. Even when they're wrong, they gotta double down, try to save face, whatever, make a scene, and try to prove somehow that they were in the right, even if they're wrong. I don't understand it, but it is what it is, and you're going to encounter it at some point, so be ready. Hey, if you enjoyed these stories, do me a favor and click on this video right here. I think you're going to enjoy it. And if you like handmade soaps and bath products, go ahead and visit this website while you're watching the other videos so that you can maybe check out some of our wares. All right, till the next one, we'll see you.